Good morning, all of you. Today we shall discuss about the body temperature and the mechanisms involved in the regulation of the body temperature. Now, what is the importance of regulating the body temperature? We know that most of the enzymes are optimally or maximally functional at a given temperature. If there is any change in the body temperature, the enzymatic activity gets altered, and if the enzymatic activity gets altered, many of the important homeostatic and regulatory functions will get deranged. Especially this happens if there is a high temperature within the body. So the cellular activity, the optimal cellular activity occurs at an optimal temperature. Increasing the temperature will cause damage to the enzymes and denaturation of the biochemical substances which is present in the cellular level in the cells, and that may alter the function. So any high temperature much higher than the normal temperature carries a risk or a danger of the homeostatic functions of the body getting disrupted. But this can also be used to our advantage if the temperature is brought down or is lowered. At a lowered body temperature, we find that the enzymatic reactions and the functioning of the enzyme slows down. Even along with the slowing down of the enzymatic activity, the cellular activity also gets reduced. So, temperatures which are extremely low or hypothermia, the BMR gets reduced, the enzyme action gets reduced, as a result of which it can be used up to the advantage of human beings in conducting certain surgeries or slowing down the body's metabolic rate. This we will discuss about hypothermia in a separate class. So hence it becomes very important to ensure that the body temperature remains in a normal range, so that the functions are carried on normally. We know that there are two types of organisms, one the homeothermic and the poikilothermic situations. Homeothermic means that the body temperature remains constant despite an alteration in the environmental temperature. Poikilothermic means that the body temperature alters with the environmental temperatures. Now, if you see this diagram, you will find that there is a constancy of the body temperature being maintained. Say, for example, here, if the atmospheric temperature, we are talking in terms of Fahrenheit, even at the rate of when the environmental or the atmospheric temperature is 70 degrees to around 110 degrees centigrade, the constancy of the body temperature is maintained. So, what are the factors which are maintaining this constant body temperature despite a variation in the atmospheric temperature makes us to understand the regulatory mechanisms. For that, you have to understand certain basic concepts. There are two temperatures within the body temperature. One is the core temperature and the other is the skin temperature. The core temperature, the word would suggest, is the temperature present in the core of the body. We know that the whole of the human body on the outset is having skin, then we have got the superficial fascia, then the deep fascia, then we have got the muscle mass. Inside that, the muscle mass, we have got the organs present there. So, the core of the human body comprises the internal organs of the body, and the temperature which is present in the core organs of the body is called as the core temperature. This core temperature is the temperature of the deep tissues and is more or less constant. Hardly it varies to 0.5 to 1 degrees Fahrenheit under normal conditions. Whereas when you see the other temperature, which is the skin temperature varies widely, and the temperature on the skin depends upon the environmental temperature. Now here you see this is the diagram which is being shown up here. here this is the whole human body. This is the temperature where the room temperature is around 35 degrees centigrade, somewhere around 98, 99. Here it is less cooler in the body. So if you see that when the temperature, room temperature is around 35 degrees centigrade, there are two temperatures. One is the core temperature and the other is the skin temperature. So here whatever is marked in dark red is the temperature or the core temperature, which is marked which is in a plain colored, that part of the body remains the peripheral temperature or the skin temperature. So more or less even at 35 degrees centigrade you will find that the core temperature remains normal or constant in most of the deeper tissues of the body. Whereas when we come on to the superficial layer and the skin, you will find that the temperature slowly falls, and hardly it is these areas like the feet and in the hands you will find that the temperature is little less than the core temperature. This is the situation of the body in a normal room temperature of 35 degrees centigrade. When the temperature falls, that is the environmental temperature falls, you will find that there is a little variation where the core temperature is 37 degrees is restricted to the vital areas of the body. If you see this diagram, you will see that the core temperature of the brain, the temperature in the heart and the lungs, the temperature in the abdominal viscera is nearly constant, which is constant to the normal body temperature, somewhere around 37 degrees centigrade. Somewhere around 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit. But as we go into the periphery, that is the shoulders and the upper arms here and the thighs, you will find that the temperature of the body, of the temperature of the deeper tissues here is somewhat less than the core temperature and is somewhere around 36 degrees. As we go down, it is 34 degrees centigrade. Whereas in the peripheral areas of the body, that is in the skin, in the feet and in the palms, the body temperature is somewhere around 28 degrees, and here the skin temperature would vary everywhere. So if you see the whole of the organs, whole of the body, which is in dotted black, is little pale in color, and that part of the body is the skin temperature, which is somewhere near the room temperature. Whereas the internal organs, the innermost core body temperature is 37 degrees, little down in the thighs and in the upper arms it is little less, somewhere around 34 to 36 degrees centigrade. As you come towards the more periphery, that is the forearm and into the lower legs, you will find it is around 31 degrees centigrade, and in the feet and the palms it is somewhere around 28 degrees centigrade. Now, there are certain variations in the body temperature. Let us see what are the variations which we see in the body temperature. First, what is the normal body temperature? The normal body temperature in terms of Fahrenheit is somewhere around 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit, and in terms of centigrade it is somewhere around 37 degrees centigrade. So this is the normal body temperature, and this normal temperature is measured by a clinical thermometer, and this thermometer has to be placed under the tongue for 2 minutes. So this records the temperature of the oral cavity or the temperature under the tongue, and it gives a slight hint of the core body temperature. The temperature usually in adults is measured by placing this clinical thermometer under the tongue for 2 minutes. In children it can be placed either in the axilla or in the groin, and the body temperature can be measured. There, when you measure the temperature by putting the thermometer in the axilla or in the groin area, you have to add at least 1 degrees Fahrenheit to come to the normal body temperature, because the skin temperature or the axillary temperature there is little less than the core body temperature. Similarly, if you would have seen that later guns, thermal scanners are coming. If you measure the body temperature with those scanners, the temperature of the skin is recorded, that is the skin temperature is being recorded, and to that somewhere around 1 to 1.5 degrees centigrade you have to add, depending upon the calibration there, to arrive at a normal body temperature. Because when you put the thermal scanner over the forehead and record the body temperature, it is in fact recording the skin temperature. The next variation is the age, variation in the body temperature with age. Now, normally in a newborn temperature, in a newborn body, in newborns, the temperature slightly varies with the environmental temperature. There, in the newborns, the temperature regulating mechanisms are not well developed, and since they are not well developed, the body temperature will vary with the environmental temperature. That is why it is very important that as soon as the child is born, the body has to be kept warm, or you have to wrap up in a warm clothes, or keep the child close to the mother so the body heat gets transmitted from the mother to the child, so that hypothermia does not occur in a newborn. The temperature in a preterm baby, where it is premature baby is born before the 38 weeks of gestation, the temperature is definitely they have a hypothermia, the temperature is subnormal temperatures. That is why it is being advised by the neonatologist that sometimes you need to put the baby under a warmer, where under the warmer artificial heat is being generated, so that the baby in the warmer is kept normal and the body temperature remains normal. So hypothermia is a problem, has to be watched out in newborns and in premature infants. As age advances, the body temperature increases. The body temperature is a little higher at adolescent age because of the hormones and the increased BMR. And as age advances in elderly persons, the body temperature mechanisms again becomes little weak. The temperature regulating mechanisms are little not working at an appropriate level. So the temperature in the elderly persons is little less than the normal. Size, this is seen, size just generally means obesity or a non-obese person. In a little obese person, the body temperature is slightly higher. In terms of male-female distribution, it is seen that the females have a little higher body temperature than the males. And especially it is seen that in females during the ovulation time, because of the release of certain hormones, there is a slight surge in the body, increase in the body temperature by around 0.5 degrees Fahrenheit. So this is one of the feature where it is an indication of ovulation, raising of the body temperature during the 14th day of the cycle, indicating that ovulation has occurred. Then food, the body temperature related to food is something, the same thing where the relation is with the body temperature with the specific dynamic action of the food. Food which are having high SDA, that is the high specific dynamic action, will cause a little higher heat production and the body temperature may increase. So those foods which are having higher SDA levels, especially fats and proteins, will give rise to an increased heat generation within the body. Then exercise, during exercise there is muscle contraction, there is heat production, ATP is broken down. When ATP is broken down, there is heat produced in the body. So temporarily you will find that after a bout of exercise, the body temperature becomes raised, or the body is heated up, or the body feels warm. So this extent to which the body becomes warm or heated up depends on the extent of heat generated. Mild to moderate, slight rise of temperature, whereas if you do deep, severe exercises, then there is lot of heat generated because of the muscle contractions taking place, ATP being broken down. So the body will be little much more warmer in athletes who are doing severe exercise. Climatic variations, hardly anything, because we are all homeothermic. There is hardly any climatic variations, but the skin temperature definitely will change. You go into a cold atmosphere where there is a low temperatures than the body temperatures, you will find that the skin temperature is also little relatively less than the body temperature, core temperatures. Whereas when you go into a little hot atmospheric areas, you will find that because of the environmental temperatures being little high, the skin temperature the skin may appear little warm or hot compared to the body temperature, core body temperature. Sleep. The body temperature also varies with sleep. It shows a circadian rhythm. Circadian rhythm means during sleep, because there is a decreased BMR during sleep, the body temperature also falls. So during sleep, you will find that there is a little reduced body temperature than the normal. BMR, basal metabolic rate, an increase in the basal metabolic rate will increase the activity or cellular activity, increased ATP breakdown and increased temperature of the body. This somehow, BMR, whenever is increased, will also cause increased body temperature related to thyroid. If there is a thyrotoxicosis where there is an increase in the thyroid secretions, there is an increased BMR, so body temperature is raised. So the person who is having hyperthyroidism or is in thyrotoxicosis will always feel little more hotter and more warmer than the normal persons. Similarly, it is the other way around, where in hypothyroid persons where the BMR is less, there is a decreased basal metabolic activity, decreased enzymatic activity, so decreased heat production. So such people who are having decreased thyroxine levels, that is hypothyroid, will always feel cold and shivering. If normally one person needs only a simple bed sheet to cover themselves, these people hypothyroid will need 2-3 blankets to protect themselves against the cold atmospheric conditions. So this is the variation of the body temperature with respect to BMR and in relation to the thyrotoxicosis or hypothyroidism. Emotions, anger, anxiety will temporarily slightly raise the body temperature. There are certain drugs, anesthetic drugs, which will increase the body temperature. Posture. The posture is somewhere related to body temperature in the process that allows the body to conserve heat. Say for example, in summer when the atmospheric temperature is very high, the normal stance taken while sitting is to just extend your legs and sit down so that there is more surface area exposed for the heat to be lost from the body. So in this way, by taking an extension posture where the hands and the legs are just spread out, you increase the surface area of the body for the heat loss to take place so that the body temperature, the warmth comes down. Similarly, when it's a cold atmospheric condition, say example in winter season, while sleep you would have noticed the posture assumed is either you put your one leg over the other and sleep and sit down in a very closed atmosphere, or in sleep you are in a curled up position in a sense that your legs are all flexed into the abdomen, the neck is flexed, the hand is flexed into the abdomen, so that in that curled up position you will find that the surface area of the body exposed to the atmosphere is reduced. When the surface area exposed to the atmosphere is reduced, the amount of heat loss is reduced, so you are conserving the heat and trying to keep yourself warm. Then clothing, depending upon the clothing, it is all where you wear warm clothes, you have a heat conserved and you start feeling warm. You wear little loose clothes, there is a heat loss taking place. Constitutional hyperthermia. Constitutional hyperthermia means some people have their body temperature set at a little higher level. Set at a little higher level means that instead of their body temperature being 98.6, whenever you measure the temperature, it will be little slightly high. Maybe it may be somewhere around 99 degrees or 98.8 degrees Fahrenheit. So that is without any reason their body mechanisms or the temperature clock is set in such a way that 98.6 or 99 is a little high, and that is called as constitutional hyperthermia. Then you have got diurnal variations. Diurnal variations means variations in the body temperature with respect to the change in the clock with time. You will find that the body temperature is lowest in the morning hours, that is early morning 4 a.m., 5 a.m. You will find that the body temperature is lowest, and as the day proceeds the body temperature increases and a little high slight rise of temperature above normal can be seen during the afternoons or in the early evenings, that is between 2 to 4 p.m. You will find that the body temperature varies. So a variation in the body temperature with respect to day and night. Early morning it is lowest 4 a.m. whereas it is high during the afternoons between 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. Then there is another variation which is called as the regional variations. Now the regional variations means the body temperatures are different in different organs of the body. As mentioned earlier, you will find that the regional variations are existing. Regional variations in a sense that means the skin temperature is little lesser than the core body temperature. So you have got a core region or the innermost region of the body or the tissues where the body temperature is highest, whereas as you go up from the core to the skin, you will find that the temperature decreases, and on the skin the body temperature is the lowest. Apart from that, within the organs, you will also find that liver being a highly metabolic active organ, you will find that the temperature of the liver is around 1 degree centigrade higher than the rest of the body temperature. Similarly, the temperature within the heart, it is seen on the right side of the heart, is around 0.2 degrees lesser than that of the left side of the heart. In addition, the scrotal temperature, you will find that the scrotal temperature is somewhere less than the body temperature. The temperature in the scrotum is somewhere around 32 degrees centigrade, whereas the body 32 to 33 degrees centigrade, whereas the body temperature, core body temperature is somewhere around 37 or 38 degrees centigrade. The reason being for this scrotal temperature being lower is because the scrotum is placed outside the body constitution. It embeds the testes, and for optimal spermatogenesis to happen, it should be at a lower temperature. So that at a lower temperature, optimal spermatogenesis takes place. In persons who have undescended testes, you will find that since the testes are present inside the abdomen or is present in the inguinal region, they are subjected to high temperature. Spermatogenesis may not be there, so there may be an decreased spermatogenesis happening in such persons. Now here, this is the diagram which is showing the core body temperature variations. Here you will find that on this axis is the core temperature. Here you will find that it is the temperature, it is the timings. At 4 a.m. you will find that the core body temperature is lowest. As the day proceeds, it slightly increases. At 2 to 4 p.m. it is maximum, and then you will see again that there is a slight dip in the body temperature. This is the diurnal variation with respect to temperature. Here again, as I told you earlier, this is the core temperature and this is the shell temperature. See, the core temperature is 37 degrees. When you go into a little outside the core, that is inside the shell, you will find the temperature falls to around 36 degrees. And in the shell, you will find that it is somewhere around 32, and in the periphery it is 22. See the fingers, at the fingers and in the toes, the temperature will be around 28 degrees. Here at the level lower leg, you will find it is 31 degrees. In the thighs, it is 34 degrees. As you go up, it increases to 36. And inside the organ core of the body, where all the organs are located, the temperature is somewhere around 37 degrees. Now this core temperature, or the area with which the body is covered with the core temperature, depends upon the environment. In a warm condition, you will find that majority of the area of the body, you will find that the core temperature is there at 37 degrees. But in cold condition, you will find the core temperature is just restricted to 37 degrees. The idea being that the more vital organs of the body should have optimal functioning, so that heat is saved, heat loss does not occur. So when there is a core temperature being saved or heat is being saved, these organs are functioning normally. Whereas at other areas, there is a strong vasoconstriction taking place, so heat loss is prevented. When you do this vasoconstriction here, you prevent the heat loss so that the main organs get an adequate supply of heat, so that the body temperature doesn't fall below 37 degrees and enzymatic functions and the organ functions take place normally when there is an extreme cold atmospheric condition happening. Whereas in the warm condition, there is not much of a heat loss taking place. When there is not much of a heat loss taking place, most of the areas of the body have the core temperature so that optimal functioning can take place. We will just introduce the topic today, thermotaxis, and we will continue in the next class. Thermotaxis means, thermo means temperature, taxis means balance. So here we are maintaining or seeing a situation where a normal body temperature has to be maintained. Now what do you mean by normal body temperature being maintained? there are two systems which are working in the body. On one hand, there is a system in the body which is trying to produce heat within the body, and that mechanism where heat is produced in the body is known as thermogenesis. So there are certain factors in the body or certain mechanisms in the body or certain processes which are happening that try to generate heat within the body, and this process is known as thermogenesis. Then there are certain other processes simultaneously happening in the body which is seeing to it that whatever heat is being produced is also lost out from the body. This process or the mechanisms by which heat is lost from the body is known as thermolysis. So I am introducing two concepts here: thermotaxis, one is thermogenesis and one is thermolysis. So what do you mean by thermogenesis? Thermogenesis means that the mechanisms by which heat is produced within the body. Then what do you mean by thermolysis? Thermolysis means the mechanisms by which heat is lost out from the body. Now, on one hand, you have got mechanisms which are producing heat, and on the other hand, there are mechanisms or processes which are causing loss of heat loss from the body. Now, if the body temperature has to be maintained at 98.6 degrees centigrade, there has to be a balance between the heat producing mechanisms and the heat lost mechanisms. So when there is a balance between the thermogenesis and thermolysis, a thermotaxis of 98.6 degrees centigrade is maintained. If either one of this collapses, then you will find that the whole process of homeostasis of maintaining a constant body temperature gets altered. So whenever there is an increased heat production in the body, or when there is more thermogenesis taking place, the heat is produced. So the thermolysis mechanisms have to come into play to see to that this extra heat is lost from the body. Or if there is more heat loss from the body, mechanisms have to come into play so that this loss is prevented or more heat is generated, so that thermotaxis is maintained. We will stop here for the day, and in the next class we will see what are the mechanisms which are involved in thermogenesis, what are the mechanisms involved in thermolysis, how thermotaxis is maintained, and what happens when this thermal temperature clock is either set towards a little higher than normal, or if it goes less than the normal body temperature. Thank you for the day.